we're going to have Sir Elwell to be. I need to fix that shit. Good evening, guys. I got a quick little scripture I'm going to do. It's one of my favorites. It's from 2 Kings. Elisha left Jericho and went up to Bethel. As he was walking along the road, a group of boys from the town began mocking and making fun of him. "Go away, you bald head," they chanted. Go away, you bald head." Elisha turned around and looked at them, and he crushed them and he cursed them in the name of the Lord. And then two bears, in the King James, they're she-bears, so it's great. Then two bears came out of the woods and mauled 42 of them. From there, Elisha went to Mount Carmel and finally returned to Samaria. So how's this relate to us? What this wonderful verse and great story, it's actually my favorite, is telling us is, let's think about what we're going to say to one another, all right? Because if we do say something that's totally wrong, totally bad, we're going to get mauled by a bunch of she-bears. We're going to get eaten up by a bunch of bears, and that sucks. So I want you guys to think about what you're going to say to one another. Think about, hey, am I going to be completely offending somebody by saying this? Am I going to be hurting that person? Am I going to be damaging their reputation? Because none of us want to do that, all right? So let's pray, and let's get this thing going. God Almighty, we thank you for your word. We thank you for all these people getting together to get some stuff done for you and for this university. Let us think about what we say, and let us just do your will. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
We will now move into the Pledge of Allegiance.
Mr. Peyton Kelly, representative from the sophomore class, is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Will you please stand? Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now move into appointments. Are there any appointments? We now move into swearing of the new members, which is not going to happen. And we will now move into roll call.
Executive board is all here, but missing Mallory and Cook. Senior class.
709.
Senior class.
709, missing Brandon Hudson and Danielle Barnes.
Okay, junior class.
8 of 9 missing Dave Snyder.
Sophomore class.
7 of 8 missing Shannon Wilson.
Freshman class.
8 out of 9 missing Jennifer Littlejohn. It's 7 out of 9. Kevin's not. Calvin.
We will now move into approving the minutes. Is there a motion on the floor?
Motion to approve last meeting's minutes.
Second.
We will now move into a vote. All those opposed? All those in favor? We'll now move into student forum. Are there any students wishing to speak at this time? Seeing none, we'll move on to the Executive Council reports. President Newby.
I'm just turning off the thing so nobody calls me because it's going to mess up the recording. All right. It is an honor to do this for the first time in my report, but I have signed Resolution 001-13, and we'll be presenting it to Dean Hale following getting all the other signatures on it. So congratulations. This is your first resolution that has been signed. So tonight, we don't have much on the docket. We've got a couple things with the budget that are going to be talked about. And also, I love for, I'm going to bring this up during congressional forum, but I love for you to be thinking about what your views are on recycling on campus. I've gotten several emails, and actually the Campbell Times wants us to weigh in, and before I weigh in, I would like to get y'all's input as a body on that. So please be thinking of your thoughts on that. And as of right now, I do not have an update on Representative Littlejohn. Please still do keep her in your prayers.
Alrighty, everybody, good to see some new faces here in the gallery. Office hours, a lot of people have been neglecting them, and just so you know, there's gonna be a little bit of change to things. The purpose of an office hour, in my opinion, reading the Constitution, is to mandate an hour a week for members of Congress to go above and beyond their normal duties. So if you're in a meeting that's in the SHA office or the conference room and attendance is mandatory, that meeting will not count. So class meetings, committee meetings, those will not be counted as office hours. And also, I have these mutual government association email list signers. So if someone would like to take and do an office hour that's fun, you can take these around, get students' email addresses, and that will definitely count. You can even use this table and do a little cover for it. Also, for how the meeting's going to go from now on, it's too time consuming to recognize everyone by name, so if you have a query and the speaker is dealing with queries, I'm going to not acknowledge you by pointing to you, so just be observant. It'll make things go a little bit faster. And also, building off of getting mauled by theirs by our chaplain, if anyone uses any remarks that could be remotely taken as sexist, racist, or discriminatory in any fashion, you'll be asked to leave. No tolerance policy. And then that will count as an absence. So be professional or get mauled by theirs. It'll be counted as a target, not an absence. I yield to any queries?
So when are you guys going to give us our passwords? For me and a couple of freshmen, they do not work when I try to go into the office. When's that going to be fixed?
President, anything on that one?
We're working on it. Chris is out of town currently, and so I have no way of getting the student ID numbers to physical plant to get them approved, but that is in the works.
Just on a side note, if you can't get into the office and you're planning on doing it, call me and I'll come unlock it for you, or if I trust you, I'll give you my codes. We'll find a way for you to be able to do them.
Okay.
Any more queries?
I'm going to sit right here because I don't really know. I just want to give a quick report on Representative Littlejohn. Like I said before, she's my mentee for the English department. She says she is recovering and she's hoping to be back in school by this Thursday, or this coming up Thursday, so a week from today. So she is recovering. The other thing is just make sure you CC me on all your emails, secretaries, because if I don't get it, it didn't happen. So just make sure you're being really cautious about that.
We'll now move into the commuting students report. Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Members of Congress, I only have a brief report. I have been talking with Dean Hale about our bike racks for Marchbanks, and she said she'd be happy to pay for it. So that'll save us some money, and that's what the resolution was about anyway. But more to come on that as things develop.
We'll now move into Congressional Committee reports. First, we'll move into academics. Chairman Hudson. Moving into advancement. Chairwoman Caldwell.
I know I come up here a lot, sorry about that. Just so you know, we've sent, Advancement Committee has sent in a resolution to the Finance Committee for approval. It's for $30. We're doing like a Facebook gift card thing. So like our page, share this, follow us on Twitter, favorite this, or retweet it, and we'll choose 6 random winners. to get $5 gift cards to Creek Coffee. So that's going to Finance Committee tonight to hopefully be passed. To hopefully get some followers, to get a few more people on our Facebook for reasons that Sarah will go into later. Also, we are looking at passing a resolution with Sarah, which she'll go into later, for business cards. I know I've mentioned this before, but the business cards will potentially have our Facebook on it, our Twitter, our email, and our website, and our telephone number. And they'll be passed out with some things that Sarah will be talking about later. So doing a lot of things, going through a lot of things, still working on a couple of ideas that we've got. Like I said, if you're looking to help out, looking to get involved with us, please just let me know. We can always use lots of help. Oh, and clubs. I do not have an official club list yet. Still working on that. So if anybody's in a club that has an event going on, like Nikita just told me, representative, or whoever she is, Nikita told me that the Outdoors Club is having a big event thing coming up, so we went ahead and made a flyer. Chris has got to approve it. As soon as it's approved, we'll hang it up. So if you have a club, if you're involved with the club and you have an event going on, please let me know, because as of right now, I don't have any way to get up with anybody because I don't really know who any of these people are. So just let me know, come up with a flyer if you want. If you don't want to, just pass it to me. I'll come up with it, and we'll get it approved and put out. Thank you.
Are there any motions on the floor? Like perhaps one to roll?
Motion to recall roll.
Second?
Second.
All those opposed? All those in favor?
Aye.
We'll recall vote, roll.
Okay, exactly the same. Senior class,
Same.
junior class,
Same.
sophomore class,
Same.
freshman class.
8 out of 9, missing Jacksonville.
Alrighty. We will now move into the elections report. Chairwoman Laird.
No report.
We now move into finance. Chairman Strobo.
No report.
We now move into rules. Chairman Shad.
Good evening, everyone. Today, a parliamentarian's absence. I will be serving as parliamentarian. Just a quick note about rules. Our next meeting will be next Thursday at 6. So if you have any resolution ideas, get them to me so I can give them a number and refer them to committees so that they can vote on them and continue the process. Any queries?
Could you tell us a deadline of when the last date or time and date and time would be to send in new resolutions so that we could get them on the dock for that upcoming Thursday? When would be the last date that we could send those to where you could get them passed through the appropriate committees?
The deadline is not so much on rules this year. It's now more on the committees that it will be referred to, because I don't have control over those committees, so I can't schedule things. But the normal deadline for getting into rules by the committee chair will be Thursdays at 5:30. So much as soon as possible would be best.
Could I clarify? Okay, so 5:30 to get on the dock for that evening at 7 to be on
The off Thursday.
the off meeting. Okay.
I guess this is a point of information. To help to help shorten the process and eliminate the potential for a resolution to be sat on by a committee. Give me just a sec to find it in the House rules. Therefore, be it further resolved, this is on 27, page 2, if anybody has it. Therefore, be it further resolved that the committee to which the resolution is referred to for further review meets at the discretion of the chair before the next set Rules Committee meeting, unless the Rules Committee set meeting is within 3 university business days of the resolution's referral. If that is not possible, the committee must meet at the discretion of the committee chair before the second next scheduled Rules Committee. Cliff notes of that is, if, because the absence, the official the official rule to call a meeting is you have to be 3 university days or more to take attendance in advance. So if you turn in the resolution to the Rules Committee and they meet 4 days away from now, and I'm the committee chair and he directs it to my committee, I've got to call a meeting within 3 university business days to have it, if I get it within, does that make sense? If I get it before the next set Rules Committee meeting, and it's within the time that I can have an official meeting with calling absences, you have to vote on it then. Say the Rules Committee meeting is tomorrow, I have to call one before the next set Rules Committee. So in other words, if you don't get it this time, you've got to do it by the next set. Sorry, that was...
I think I understand.
Any additional queries?
Moving to student affairs. Everyone forward.
Hi everyone, so I'm really excited with what Student Affairs is doing this year. I had a meeting over lunch with Emily yesterday, and Jay and I met today to kind of get everything together. And we are excited to announce that for Orange Wednesdays, we will be having a design contest. So through this, people who are interested will need to send in their designs within the next 2 weeks, and the specifics of the contest will be going up probably tomorrow. And then we'll take the top few designs and put them on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and basically whichever one gets the most likes or favorites will be the winner. And so that way the students have an input on what goes on the shirts that they will be getting. Yield to inquiries. Thank you.
We will now move into class reports. President Hudson.
Permission to bring my phone.
Brandon's in Chattanooga, so he told me to read this. Good evening, Congress. I would like to apologize for my absence from tonight's meeting. I'm currently attending the Student Activities Conference in Chattanooga with Chris O'Connor. I would like to thank the senior class for all the work that they have been putting in over these last few weeks. We're continuing in ideas, our class gift. If anyone has any ideas, please feel free to contact me. I hope you all have a good meeting and a great weekend. Brandon Hudson.
Alrighty. Junior class, President Burke.
Can I have a motion to recall roll?
Yes. Is there a second?
Second.
All those opposed? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Exactly the same. Senior class,
Same.
junior class,
9 of 9.
sophomore class, same. Freshman class,
Same.
All right. Sophomore class, President Hitler. Oh, just kidding. Just kidding. President Burke.
Okay, just briefly, we were planning on doing the Allen Brown Challenge during homecoming week, but we've run into a lot of problems trying to get it done so quick. It's a short amount of time going through all the committees. So we are changing it, hopefully sometime in November. So you guys will be seeing that soon. Any queries? Okay,
Sophomore class, President Hitler.
Good evening, Congress. This week, Jennifer Brown sent out an email to all the sophomores letting them know that there was an opening position for a representative. The application and resume process will end this Friday. So far, we have 5 applicants for the one spot. And then on Monday, we will have interviews. And then on Wednesday, we have a class meeting so we can vote on who we think is appropriate to vote for. That's all.
Freshman class, President Urshadi.
Hey everyone, we're working on bringing a Coke machine in the Marsh Base, and we're working on a resolution to do that, and that's pretty much it.
Motion to move into a 5-minute recess.
1 second.
Okay.
Not right now, sorry. Going.
I was gonna come when the recess happened, so it made it a lot less awkward. Kind of blew my plan right there. Okay.
Motion to move into a 5-minute recess.
Second.
Second, yes.
So that the executive council can vote on this committee as a whole, and so that Congress has a chance to read it.
All those opposed? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Executive, oh, I can't get by.
Hold on, let me look.
Oh, on camera, great.
Well, let's leave. Last time it kind of off. What? You were trying to stop. Probably. Before I said that. Yes.
It'd be Tuesday.
What was bad? That was hilarious. This meeting can go quick enough. What you're doing. I'll probably do that before like the very last minute of the school year.
Wow. Wow.
I will say. It is one of our most popular. Yeah, I'm sure. He's up in well, well, I mean, yeah. I really do. I mean, unless you're having trouble getting
Where? Up here? 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 Over here? Yes. Oh, everyone except here we are. Looks real intense. We're just like, what? I don't think it has. It's just what it is. What is going on?
If you read the Constitution, we're actually supposed to retain this power of discretion of how clubs are funded. And right now, SG has zero discretion over it.
So what do you mean?
So we're in violation of the Constitution every year.
So we shouldn't do this?
Yeah, we should fight this until we get the power back. Because it's in the Constitution. They changed it like 8 years ago. I mean, by changed, I mean someone just kind of came and took the power away without officially doing it. So it's still our power.
I thought they were trying to give it back.
Yeah, we are trying
Wait,
to
what's
get
our power we don't have? We can't give them any money?
Okay, this allocated some $5,000 thing.
Yeah.
Our executive vice president is actually supposed to be the one who has discretion over it. They're discussing random things. That's basically exactly like a handful of people. So yeah, the executive vice president is supposed to be in charge of this, not some grad assistant. So we're just trying to get that power back. I mean, it's not that there's anything specifically wrong with
Is
this.
it saying get the power back?
I don't think it says anything about getting the power back. No, it doesn't. It just says give them the money and keep doing what we've been doing. So.
Go ahead and take your seats, everybody.
Same.
Out of order.
Oh, someone said.
There's a
Second.
Motion to roll.
All those opposed? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Executive, JD, we're now here in senior class.
Same.
Junior class.
Same.
Sophomore class. Freshman class.
We will now move into our new business. Are there any motions on the floor?
Motion is to suspend the rules.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those opposed? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Rules are suspended. Is there another motion on the floor?
Motion to move into a committee of the whole.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those opposed? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We will now move into committee of the whole. Representative, or Chairwoman Padlock.
Okay, Andrew came to me with this issue this past week. I've talked to him about it a lot, but he can explain it better than I can, so come on.
So, what this is, and I'm sorry we had to go through that whole committee, the whole process. I know it's kind of a roundabout way of doing things, but this is a pretty urgent matter. One of the goals of SGA is to, or at least the executive council, was to become more involved with clubs through advancement to give clubs more of a voice, a mainstream channel in which they can advertise their events, to increase their funding and just pretty much work with them in a better than we have in the past. But what this boils down to is clubs have been going to Chris O'Connor and Philip Hope asking for their funding this semester. We've allocated it in the budget to be given to them, and everyone approved that. But now we actually have to take the step of withdrawing it from the budget and transferring it to IOC. Now, what happens is this $5,000 with the system that I and Philip Hope worked on ensures that all clubs are gaining financially in an even way. It's a $50 increase across the board. We worked pretty hard, hours on end. I think we probably clocked maybe, I don't know, a lot. Anyway, this is what it comes down to is if we do not pass this at this resolution or at this meeting, then we'd have to wait till 2 weeks from now, or a week and a half, I guess, technically, since it would be on a Tuesday, to pass it, which would be probably about 3 weeks before clubs get their funding, instead of starting the ball rolling next week. At this point, I'll yield to queries. Awesome. Can you sit down?
Yes.
I yield my time.
I use my time.
Are there any motions on the floor?
Motion to move into a round of debate.
Second.
All those opposed? All those in favor?
Aye.
We now move into a round of debate. Those speaking to? Those speaking against? Representative Snyder?
I feel really bad doing this because I'm sure everybody's like, what are you doing? Why are you talking about this? Why do you not like this? There's been, ever since I've been here, a SGA philosophical difference between me and some people in the administration. And it's ultimately come down to the fact that our power giving money to clubs was ripped from us 4 years ago. And they did it because supposedly they were giving money to college Republicans, giving like $5,000 to the college Republicans or the college Democrats, and not giving any money to anybody else. And so I believe it was Chris O'Connor or whoever it was at the head came in and took it over. And so I feel like a lot of the frustration that we have now is that we don't know what we're supposed to do as a body. I mean, I think that that's been a frustrating thing. I remember when I wrote resolutions last year, I'd have an event, and people would say, we're SGA, we're not CAB, we don't do that. CAB, by the way, events was ripped from us as well. CAB used to be SGA, and if you look at you might be able to correct me and find one, but I'll bet you if you look at every single SGA across the country, 9 out of 10 they do their club funding and they plan events, and they have an event coordinator within their own body. Just to give you an example of something actually kind of crazy that happened, we went to the Ken Elm lecture and talked with the guy was a U.S. attorney, his wife was there, and she used to be the vice president for SGA. And she was telling me, what's it like now? What do you guys do? And I was like, we don't really do anything. We don't really have anything to do. We give our money to an organization outside of ourselves. We don't have any say over where the money goes. We just give it away. And I don't know if y'all have noticed, but the clubs are mad about it. Clubs do not like the IOC. They do not like turning in pointless paperwork. It's a waste of time, all for the fact of maintaining equality. I believe that if we change this, this will bring clubs and SGA back together. Because if we can get back together and we have the say over the money, you know how many students are going to be up there waiting and wanting to talk to us about their club and wanting to get their funding? You know how many class presidents of clubs are going to be running for office and how competitive those elections are going to be? I say, and I'm sorry that I didn't have time to get up with you guys, I didn't know this was coming to the floor tonight. I wish we had some more time to talk about it, and I understand that clubs want their money. Let me say this, we have an IOC allocation of $1,000, is that correct? Correct, okay, I'm sorry.
I guess, point of information, we
Please,
have a
yeah.
IOC committee, or IOC oversight committee fund of $1,000 in which clubs can go and ask for additional funds.
Yes, thank you. So the clubs that really need funds, Nicholas was telling me, or excuse me, Representative Whitlock was telling me that his mock trial club is going to need money right away. Right now, let's send a message, let's vote this down. Let's not give clubs their funding for right now, not because we don't want the clubs to have their money. No, that's not it. It's because we want to send the administration that we want control back of the clubs.
Out of order, apologize. This is currently not debating the actual resolution. This is debating on whether the resolution will be put onto the agenda.
Oh, I am so sorry. Did everybody else know that? I didn't know that. Okay. How would you like me to proceed? I could sit down and then we can start this over.
There's already been 3 minutes and 14 seconds, 16 seconds spent, so you can give your time whenever you like. Unless you have points you would like on the process.
Points I would have to talk about putting it on the docket?
Correct. Concerning constitutionality, misspelled words, grammatical errors, that would be...
I am so sorry, guys. I am so sorry. Is my face red? I'm embarrassed. Well, okay. Well, I will yield my time, and I will see you guys back in a few minutes. All right? Thank you.
Representative Snyder. Those speaking for.
Is anyone speaking against?
There's no one.
Oh, I'll speak for it. I don't know why I brought this. This is notes for something else apparently. So constitutionally speaking, SGA serves in the capacity of funding IOC. As such, we need to at least put this on the docket so we can debate whether or not how we want to do it, but let's at least acknowledge that we do need to do it. So, I yield my time.
Mr. Whitlock, would you like to speak for?
I was just wondering, I had a query. I had a query for the
Parliamentary inquiry, or?
I don't yield queries.
Are there any more speaking for? Alrighty. Are there any motions on the floor?
Motion to add the resolution, our proposed resolution to the docket.
Second.
All those opposed? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We will now add resolution 003-13 to the agenda. Now we move into resolution 003-13.
Motion for a round of debate.
You have to come up and address it first. Representative
are you
Tadlock.
serious?
Chairwoman Tadlock. And
We got you okay. So, again, I guess we're speaking about factual matters, Constitution. Well, actually, at this point, correct me if I'm wrong, we can't speak of why we're doing this.
correct.
All right. So, during this time, I'd like to talk about why, well, let's save it for debate. The resolution is exactly how I presented it before. Thank you for your time.
Are there any motions on the floor?
Second.
All those opposed?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Aye. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We will now move into a round of the debate. Those speaking to. All right. Just a quick point, guys. Make sure you're not debating whereas clauses because those are facts and can't be changed. Is anyone speaking to? Seeing none. Anyone speaking against?
Yeah.
Representative Snyder.
Okay, I'm glad I'm up here at the right time now. That's good. But I did get a little extra time, so that was smart, I guess. So like I said, I really think that now is the time to stand on principle. This is the principle moving forward, that together all of us can change what has happened before, because we are not the body that messed up. It's not our fault that a student government body spent $5,000 giving money to a club. And in fact, if that was the case, it's not the administration's job to correct us. It's the student's job. That's why we're student government. You want to know why we don't have anybody here, hardly? Or why we don't have people talking? It's because there is no reason. Because the stuff that we're doing, people aren't going to get riled up about t-shirts. A club needing money, that's going to get people here, guys. That's going to put people in the seats to come talk to us, which is what we want. I don't think anybody disagrees with that. And ultimately, if we want to move on as a body and continue to be, I wouldn't say that we're as successful as we could be, or as influential as we could be. And I'm sorry, I'm off track here because I got messed up in the middle. But like I said before, there's student governments across the nation who what they do is give money to clubs. Did anyone read that article? Don't answer the question, just a rhetorical question. Did anybody read that article about UNC not giving money to college Republicans? See how big of a deal that was? What happened? Did anybody take their money away? Did anybody say, UNC, you can't do this anymore? No, they let the students decide. You don't think that the college Republican chair is going to get people to go and vote against whoever's doing that? I mean, ultimately, that's what it's all about. And so, what I'm asking, and what I'm saying to you, is that I think that if there are clubs who are in dire need of money, which I doubt there are many, I really don't. I don't think there's any clubs that need money right away. If they do, though, we have $1,000 sitting that can be requested, that we have control of, that we can use the money and give it to the clubs how we want. I don't think I've harped enough on how much clubs hate IOC and what they do. It is infuriating. You have to go to those meetings. You have to, they say the same thing over and over. And then the paperwork that you turn in, Audrey was Representative Zopp was telling me, she's president of the psychology club. And she was telling me that the paperwork that they have to do doesn't even really make sense. It's just administration things. It's stuff that you don't really need to say. You have to give 14 days of advance before you have a meeting, and you have to have that in paperwork for it to count. Has anyone ever run a club? That's difficult. That's difficult, because sometimes you need to have meetings, and you can't schedule it. And so you have a meeting, you can be we had it with the college Republicans when I was in. Our president had trouble turning in paperwork on time. And I don't blame him, it's difficult. It's difficult to keep up with all that stuff. As if the club doesn't have enough to do. They have service projects, stuff they could be doing instead of filling out stupid paperwork. Whenever we could do it, we could ultimately give them the money. And we could figure this out together. So what I'm asking is, let's vote against this $5,000 being spent to the IOC. Let's send a message. Let's have a conversation. Instead of, yeah, we'll talk about it later. That's what I hear all the time. We give them money and then we'll talk about it later. We have no bargaining chips. None. Voting against this is our bargaining chip. This is our way to get in and talk with people. This will be in the Campbell Times. We're all going to get backlash for it. But ultimately, I think it's the right thing to do because we know what's better for the students than an administrator who isn't even on campus. I don't think anybody would argue with that. We know what clubs need. If clubs need something, they come to us and they can ask us for money. That's the dream. That's the SGA that I envision. Not us giving money, just giving it away without any say on where it goes or anything, and letting somebody parcel it out based on paperwork. Not even thinking about how active the club is. Just based solely on paperwork, which shows apparently how active you are. Turning in a piece of paper shows how active my club is. That's not fair. It's not right. We should fix it. I'm out of time, I guess. And do I have time to yield for queries?
I'm going for the board.
Are there any,
Can you? Yes.
you recognize?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Do I have to ask a question first, or can I say something? Or am I out of order?
Ask if you should add, if you're trying to.
I mean, I want to tell him something and then ask a question.
Was the speaker aware?
Is the speaker aware that I think you bring up a wonderful point, but I feel this is very similar to the Penn State situation. I think we're hurting the students if we don't give them the money. We're not really hurting the administration. To whereas when they stole the scholarships from Penn State, they're hurting the students there now. They didn't really hurt Joe Paterno or Jerry Sandusky. But is there any way that we can, this is to anyone, can still give the students their money while fighting the administration?
Yeah.
Do you have ideas?
No, there is a way. I'll tell you, I've tried, and I think Hunter has tried, or excuse me, Vice President Outlaw. That's an easy name to remember too. I think he's tried. I don't know how successful he's been. We have yet to talk. I don't know. I think he has been a little successful, but not as successful as he might like. And I know whenever I did it, I actually was the one who did the IOC committee. So, but that was a pain. I mean, just to have $1,000 was a big deal to have that. And Chris did not want to budge on it. It's very difficult. And while I understand what you're saying, and I completely agree. I was actually thinking about that the other day. I was watching ESPN and thinking about that because it really isn't fair for the students. They didn't do anything wrong. And you're exactly right. That's why we have this IOC money where they can go and that we can make a little bit of change in that way. And now, look, man, we have this $5,000. Let's write a resolution and put another $1,000 in the IOC so more clubs can get money if they need it. I don't know how constitutional that is. I'm not a constitutionalist like Representative Chad over here, but I think that we'll be able to figure it out. And ultimately, you're right, it will hurt the students, but where do you think the hurt students are going to go? I think if we have a narrative with them and we explain to the class presidents what's going on, I think they will go to the, is that not out of work? I'm sorry, it's distracting. Is that not out of work? I'm sorry.
I would have to agree.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's just distracting. You can. I'll just let me finish talking. I'm sorry. I know that was me, but it's let's stick with the protocol here. I think the students. We talk to the class presidents. I think they'll ultimately go to the administration and say, because they're already mad, man. It's like a bee's nest. All we got to do is shake it up because they're aggravated at that IOC and how it works and how it functions. And so I don't know if anybody has followed the campaigns that I've run and lost like 3 times or something.
Representative Snyder, you must remain answering the question.
I am answering the question. I'm sorry because I said everybody. I'm sorry. I don't know if you follow the campaigns that I run. I've always stood for clubs, been the biggest advocate for clubs, even club sports who don't get money. So I really think that if I were able to explain to them that the clubs usually have a good narrative with me as well. If I have the time to explain to them why we're doing this, and that it could ultimately better them, that the clubs that work the hardest get the most money, that will make sense to them. I'll tell them that they don't have to turn any more paperwork like they do. They have maybe 1 piece of paper instead of 10 or 15. I think that will work for them. So to answer your question, I respectfully disagree, but I thank you for bringing that up because I didn't make that clear what I was saying. Yes, sir.
You've already asked, out of order, you've already asked 2 questions. You're limited to 2 questions.
That one.
Just because he did the.
Because I have to say, is it aware that it's a good point? Okay.
You did ask a follow-up question, correct?
Yep, but the first question was, is he aware that he gave a good point? I mean, I really, if it's technically a question, but all right.
Okay. Go ahead and ask your question.
Would you, would you be willing to lead up the charge to bring it to the administration?
I would.
Like
And I
create
think
a committee or something?
I think Vice President Outlaw would be the best person to do that. I think he has a good grasp of what's going on, and I think that is ultimately why I wanted to run for Vice President, because that used to be what they did. They were in charge of clubs. That's what they do. So he has taken a cut while he wasn't here, a job cut, and now practically all he does is do these meetings. And before I wrote the IOC committee, he did nothing except for run the meetings. The vice president of SGA almost does nothing. No due disrespect. And it's not right. We should have control of clubs. It just makes sense. So, but yes, I will work with Vice President Outlaw and whoever else want to work on this. I think this is a winning issue for the students, and I think we need to pursue it. I really do. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Mr.
Would the speaker agree it's better to sacrifice in the short term in order to benefit the students over the long term? Because
that's a good Republican ideal. Of course, I love it. Yes, I love it. Right. You cut taxes for the long term.
Thank you.
Who's currently in charge of the IOC?
Point of information.
Point of information. The Vice President of Student Government is the head of IOC. That is something that was given up in the past, for lack of a better term. But we have not given it up. We are working. That is why I have not tried to make a big deal about this in front of Congress, is we have been working to put the Vice President back in charge of, not the IOC committee, IOC completely. Because in the student handbook, they are on the student website, which isn't law, but the student handbook is what the university publishes. And in the university handbook, the Vice President for the student government is the chair of the IOC committee.
Yes, it is more of a, since the question was directed at me, yes, he is the chair of the IOC. In my opinion, in the past, it has been more of a, what's the term I'm looking for? Like the Queen of England? They don't really do any, what? Figurehead, yeah, they don't really do anything, but they're there. I mean, everybody loves the Queen and everything, but she doesn't really have much control. I mean,
We're going to limit it to one question. Do you want to ask a follow-up? That would be my question.
Is the committee for IOC run by students?
yes, now that, and I will say, this was the one concession that Chris did make. It isn't run by students completely. What it is it's set up, I can't remember the exact details. If someone wants to jump in after I explain what I know. From when I set it up, I don't know if it's been changed. It was the vice president, the executive treasurer, and then 2 or 3 members from the staff. Yeah, so like teachers or somebody else. So like if it was pertinent to a different club, and we obviously, if it's money for the college Republicans, then Donald Schroeder wouldn't be able to come and vote. They'd have to pick another administrator. And that's to kind of ease it along. So even in that, we don't really have complete control over that money. But from what I'm understanding, it's been one of those things where the administrators kind of go along with what we say, which is the way it should be in the first place. Those are 2 very good questions, and I thank you for asking. Or one good question to follow.
Okay. If this does not pass tonight, what is the next step with the money? Like what happens next?
Okay, excuse me. Okay, I'll refer, I think what you're asking, I'm going to answer like I think you're asking, and then I'm going to refer you to Mr. Treasurer Strobo. I have so much trouble with that. Treasurer Strobo. And what I would like the next step to be is for us to not pass this money, to keep it in our account. As far as I know, it doesn't go anywhere. So
I know that it's already, the budget's passed. I want to know what the next, sorry. Go ahead.
Can she, parliamentary inquiry, can she clarify her question?
Point of clarification.
Point of clarification.
Point of clarification. I know the budget's already been passed. I know the money stays where it is. I just want to know, like, if we don't pass it here and it doesn't go to IOC.
Point of information, it'd run over into a general fund.
Okay, that's all.
Okay, so for the next step, for the next step that I would see after that, after it goes in the general fund budget, I would like to see the money, one scenario, say that $1,000 in the, say the $1,000 in the IOC committee that we have control over runs out. Say clubs this year, for some reason, I don't foresee it, but it may be. I'm not saying that's not true. Say that $1,000 runs out and clubs are like, what the heck? We need money. Give us more money. Let's write another resolution. Allocate the money. If we're allocating the money to IOC, then we can write another resolution to allocate the money out of the general fund back to our IOC committee, and then we parcel the money out there. Ultimately, the final step would be to have this not pass, the money in our budget, and have it as a bargaining tool. I don't mean to sound vindictive, but we need something to take that says, let's take me serious now. Let's take student government serious now, because you have not been taking me seriously. In every single SG, I know confrontation is not everybody's thing, it's always my thing, but in years past, student government and the administration never get along. That's always the way it is. Student government constantly has to push. That's why we're student government. We push the administration to give the students what they want and what they need. And I really think this is a winning fight, and you can take this back to your class, to your voting constituents, and be good.
Addressing the question.
Very good. Yes. Or
Yes.
yes.
In theory, wouldn't this general fund,
Yes.
could we use that money to actually give to clubs just through this general fund?
I don't believe so, and that's what we're fighting for. Because if we could do that, then we wouldn't have to be having this conversation.
Question's been answered.
Thank you.
Do you accept it?
Would it possibly be better to give the clubs the money and then fight the administration the rest of the semester if it's such a problem, so that it would be better for next semester for the clubs?
Yeah, we could.
And it wouldn't cause any problems for the clubs this semester.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea, and that's ultimately everyone's decision if they want to vote that way. In my opinion, let's try it. Let's get a crack first, and then why not give it if it doesn't work, let's get another crack next semester. Let's go ahead and hit it now, because ultimately, what's going to change from here to the next semester? That's what I think.
Point of information.
Yeah.
Is the speaker aware that the IOC is set up that the IOC Oversight Committee oversees, which is composed of 2 faculty members, the Executive Vice President, the Executive Treasurer of SGA, and chaired by the Director of Student Activities, oversees the IOC Committee, which is chaired by the Executive Vice President of SGA, and is then composed of club presidents and/or their representatives who are not available.
I am aware of that, yes. Thank you.
Would the speaker agree that in theory, we could, so that we could solve the temporary problem of clubs needing money right now, that we do have that $1,000 in the IOC committee, which clubs can withdraw from now if they need the money right now, and that way they're not being penalized by us keeping the $5,000. And in addition to that, we could, technically it's just an allocation, we could reallocate the budget and use that money and give more additional money to the IOC committee to where we can still have a say over where the money goes.
The speaker would agree with that, yes.
Point of information.
Yes, sir. Or is it, wait, that's not a thing, never mind. Go ahead.
The IOC $1,000, or is the speaker aware that the IOC committee $1,000 slush fund, as it's been referred to, in order for that money to be spent, it cannot be directly spent from the committee. It must also then still go through Congress. So it is not, is the speaker aware that it is not an immediate solution if this resolution does not pass?
Mr. Chet, I'm not going to get in an argument with you over constitutional powers and what everything means. But when I set the IOC committee up, it was not that way. So if we are going to now reject that the money immediately is transferred for quick use, then we are going back on 2 years of what we've already done. So in my constitutional opinion, if something was done from the beginning, and if the author is still here to know what he wrote it about, then it is not intended to go through Congress once it's done. So Mr. Chad, if you want to undo, or it's called precedent, if you want to undo precedent that's already been set after 2 years, it would be my opinion that you would have to get the approval of Congress as well to undo precedent. But we obviously have some constitutional interpretation differences. Me being a Democrat, I guess, I'm a
Please refrain from addressing members' personal political preferences whilst in Congress.
He's a Republican, so.
Yeah, I know. Just don't talk.
And I'm a Republican. Okay, no Democrat Republican. Okay, gotcha.
You recognize Reverend Sherwood?
Yes, sir, Mr. Sherwood.
So, in the way that you propose that the committee chaired by Chris O'Connor with myself, Vice President Outlaw, and 2 faculty members will now decide wherever club funds go, correct?
For the time being. For the time being. And like I said, it's not like if we don't pass this, we can't 2 weeks later undo it.
Yeah.
So, you know, this is just, it depends on, I think I answered this question, so I'll stop. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Point of clarification, did the speaker say that he helped to set up IOC? I was kind of unsure.
Yes, the IOC, not IOC, the IOC committee, I wrote it, I think Brandon and I presented it 2 years ago. We wrote it and because as a member of a club, it was very frustrating for me that we couldn't have anything. That SGA, excuse me, I'm sorry, the SGA had no authority over the money. It didn't make sense to me. I've actually been saying this since sophomore year. And now that I'm a senior or a junior, I would love, that's still funny for some reason, I would love, the point of doing it was to start the process of moving away from the administration controlling everything. And so now, moving forward, as a senior, I want to see that come to fruition, and now I think is the perfect time to do it. Did that answer your question? You look confused?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right.
Point of information. In order for, is the speaker aware that in order for money to be able to be spent, it needs to be voted on by Congress to enable that, and it cannot just be directly taken out from the Student Government Association's account?
I do not believe that's correct, sir, because I have done events where we have check recs. And you can write a check rec for getting quick money. There's always that administrative money. I don't think that whenever we buy a new clock for the office, we're going to write a resolution and come up here and say, so do we want the Samsung clock or the Oasis clock? So money does get spent without Congress voting on it. So I disagree. If you're asking my opinion, now you are the rules chair, so you can have your opinion and I can have mine, but if you're asking me a question.
Do you acknowledge his question?
No, yes, I do.
Using that precedence, wouldn't that say that the academics committee can spend their allocated funds however they see without congressional approval?
Yes. Yeah, I would say so. If they have a speaker that they want to do, I think it's the right thing to do to bring them before Congress. But I also do remember a couple of years ago we bought that TV that's in the office. Apparently it doesn't work anymore, but the TV that's in the office, I never voted on that. So money does get spent without anybody voting on it. I believe that there's things that we have to, as a body, go ahead and do. We have to spend money on something to keep from a worse effect. If you want to quote, our actual Constitution, there's things like that. Then I do think that they could spend that money. Yeah. If it was a very urgent matter, I think they could spend that money. Now, if they're just spending it and not telling anybody what they're spending it on, that's a different matter. But as far as an urgent matter, say the speaker they get to come needs $50. He's like, I need $50 right now. Are we gonna, all right, everybody, Congress, get together, let's all vote on $50 for him to have? I don't think so. I don't think that's, because then you're going into, what if this $5,000, what if we want to spend 50 of it on administrative things for the IOC committee? What if they need paper tax or whatever? Do we have to vote on that too? I mean, we obviously have a difference of opinion, so I don't think your question really makes sense with what we're talking about. But we can talk later about that, though. That's an interesting conversation. Does everybody remember what we're still talking about? We're still talking about this. Yes. I'm not going to, I think that's it for questions. I'm good at it. I think everybody's got the point of the IOC thing. So.
Speaking for, I would like to
No.
first off, excuse this privilege. I'm going to now relinquish. During my speaking time, Chairman Chad will be the control of the meeting. Good evening, Congress. First off, I'd like to say this current administration is a lot different than past administration, thanks to President Navy, so don't regard anything done in the past for today. Second off, as a matter of fact, we have been trying to help clubs, just in a delicate way that allows them to continue functioning for the rest of the semester. Over the summer, when we had multiple meetings, we decided, the proposal, that we would increase the budget of advancements so that they could, for the time being, help clubs publicize their events more efficiently and more effectively and more cost effectively. Second point I wanted to make, we are trying to take back the involvement we had in IOC. We're just trying to do it in a more delicate way than running roughshod through and tearing down policies. Two, as to Representative Snyder's point about us having discretion on allocating club funds, I would have to disagree respectfully, of course. Us having the ability to abstain means we should not vote on things that we have a personal interest in. Representative Snyder described a situation whereas members of this university would be incentivized to run for office so they could achieve gaining club funds for their respective club. They would not be able to do that. That's a fact, because they'd have to abstain. Secondly, we do need an objective body, IOC, to allocate money, because there's way too much ability for corruption to take place if we're just passing it out, i.e. the point Representative Snyder referenced with the University of North Carolina and their college Republicans. I yield to any questions.
Would the speaker agree that since it is the students' money, that the Student Government Association should have full discretion over how they fund the clubs?
The speaker would have to disagree. Just because other universities have this system in place does not mean it's the best system in place. That's a logical fallacy.
Would you agree that our system might not be the best system in place?
I would agree. I don't see a way of us defining the system would be the best. I agree.
So, just point of clarification for the speaker. What the speaker is saying is that almost every other national SGA in the country have been doing their budgets, parceling out the club's funding wrongly, and they should all have been abstaining this entire time?
The point of abstention, I would say, is to not vote on something where you may have a personal interest, especially when it concerns monetary value. So if anyone, you describe the situation wherein members of the school would run for office, let's say I'm in Young Americans for Liberty, I would be incentivized to run for office, come up here as the vice president, and motivate all of y'all to spend $5,000 on YOW so we can hold an awesome event. That would be cool for us. However, the policy of the president of abstention is to prevent that from happening. To prevent people gaining office, because people gain office for power, to gain office for ulterior motives as to allocating university funds meant to benefit the students and their best interests. So I would disagree.
Follow up? Can the speaker please explain to me why then we voted to spend money on ourselves to go on a retreat?
I personally was against having a retreat, so I would have to say I can't explain that.
Follow up, so we broke the Constitution.
Information of the retreat is required for the Constitution.
So we can, okay.
Representatives off.
I just have a question to clarify what you're saying. So because I ride my bike to Marshbanks every day so that I can eat lunch, and I really like to park it and lock it up on a bike rack. Should I have abstained last week whenever we voted on getting a bike rack in front of Marshbanks?
No, you should not, in my opinion. You can of course disagree. This would be because you cannot gain any direct monetary value from it. We don't give bike racks to clubs, we give money to clubs where they can spend at their discretion as far as I'm concerned. So I would have to disagree. Thank you for bringing up that point though.
Follow up. So you give bike racks for the use of students, and we shouldn't allocate or have a decision in allocating funds for students. I shouldn't be able to voice my opinion on that.
Not if you should not, if you can monetarily benefit from voting yes or no to that resolution, you should not vote on it. That's the point of an abstention.
Is the speaker also aware that in the case of bike racks, they're accessible from all students who ride bikes versus club funding would just be for like your club? So that's probably where the difference will lie as far as.
I am aware, but that's a great point.
Coordinator Johnson.
Is the speaker aware that the bike racks also didn't cost this body any money?
That is an even better point, and now that I'm aware of that, I really appreciate you pointing that out.
Follow-up question. Is the speaker aware that the money given to clubs does not actually go into the pockets of the members of the club?
Well, I would have never thought of that, but yes, I am aware.
Okay. Can I get a crossfire or disrespect of some sort there? Mr. Parliamentarian? We're going to be playing by the parliamentary rules of disrespect. So you have them?
Out of order.
Okay.
My apologies, Representative Snyder.
Yes, thank you, sir. You're forgiven.
Out of order, too loud of laugh.
Is there a pamphlet of some sort with information on IOC alone?
Actually, there is. It's called the IOC Handbook. I would motion to allow a member that is not of Congress to speak. So, do a second that?
Second.
Second.
Just do
that.
Not during.
Is there a motion?
Parliamentary question, like, we're not allowed to do that in the middle of a debate?
Well, he made the motion and there's
No.
Can you just recognize them?
No.
During debate. Parliamentary question.
We're in debate.
Motion to end debate so that someone not in Congress can speak.
I yield my time before that motion takes place.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those who oppose?
Wait. Parliamentary question. What are we voting on right now?
Nothing.
Ending debate in order that a non-congressional member.
Objection.
Objection. No.
Yeah.
You can't.
No.
No.
All those who oppose?
No.
No.
All those in favor?
I'm just raising my hand for 4.
The motion is rejected. We're still in debate. Are there any others speaking for the treasurer? Strogo.
Awesome.
Voluntary brief, I thought if you were an author or sponsor, you could not speak for it, you can only speak to it.
He is the author.
So he cannot speak
He's
for it.
He's a sponsor.
He's a sponsor. I thought he was a
Sponsors
sponsor,
can't
author
speak
could not
for it.
speak for
I thought it
it.
was only the author.
No, it's author and sponsors.
Per the
It's sponsors.
It's sponsored.
per bylaw 2, Title 1, section letter E, a member of Congress speaking. Sorry, wrong. Letter F, authors of a resolution or amendment shall only speak to the proposed resolution or amendment. So he's not an author, he is a.
I'm the author.
Struggle.
He's just a sponsor.
All right.
Parliamentary inquiry. I know we spoke about this last year and earlier again this year. I am 99% sure that when we talked about it, it was author plus anyone who sponsored the bill. That's exactly what we were taught at the retreat. So, I mean, if we're going normal, we did the retreat, then by all means, go ahead.
Motion to rescind the decision to the floor and let the floor decide.
Second.
Motion granted. Is there a second?
Second.
Sorry. All those opposed? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is approved.
Now, my motion is to reconsider and to say to Andrew Strobo, because we were taught at the retreat that sponsors are not allowed to speak, that he should not be allowed to speak. That's my motion.
I object.
Look at your, where's my phone? Look at the parliamentary.
I motion to recess for 3 minutes so that we can figure this out, please.
Second.
Any seconds? All those opposed? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll do that.
I like y'all's point. I feel like this is now like the CBA with like the NFL and the NBA. I kind of like it.
I mean, we were told one thing at the retreat, so let's go with what we were told.
Well, no, I'm talking like the whole bill in general. I didn't even think about it. Like, this is your card. I mean, you pass this, you lose all.
What I'm saying is that traditionally we've always had this power. Why give this power to something that teachers have partial control over? If it's student money,
It should be students.
It comes out of our tuition.
Yeah.
It should be completely up to our discretion.
I've never been fully educated on this until like now.
Yeah.
And I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I agree.
I also understand what the fight is over because, in my opinion, there's one clear right side.
Well,
and then there's one.
the fight, which is what I brought up, is the Penn State situation. Are they not going to get their money? But personally, I'm going to vote with y'all.
Ways for clubs.
I thought the $1,000 would be all right, and even if we can figure something out.
All I'm saying is, yeah, we're going to get some flack for correcting something that we initiated for 4 years ago. Well, let's go ahead and correct it now.
Let's correct it, move on.
And so be
Yeah,
fixed.
I agree. It's like the NFL lockout.
Yeah,
Gotta do it.
Go ahead, fix it now. It's going to hurt, but we'll move on.
And it's only it's $1,000 for 2 weeks, correct?
Yeah.
That who the hell is going to spend?
If those claims are spent, it's going to be ridiculous.
Yeah.
So unless there's something I'm unaware of, we're not going to waste that.
Yeah, that's. But we have to resolve that. We'll actually get this issue settled.
This should be under our discretion.
I agree.
We should be able to debate whatever club funding, how it's spent. If it's students' tuition that this money's coming out of, it should be our discretion, not partially faculty and partially students. It should be 100% students.
Yeah. Because if it's going to be faculty, then they should be paying some money.
They should have some skin in the game. That's how it should be.
Yeah.
But that's just my opinion.
I agree.
Hope I didn't seem too disrespectful in my last basically, I'll give you a quick little rundown. This $5,000 comes out of and right now, faculty as well as students have the same and the way it's looking right now,
Wait, this is the right way.
Let me was down front. I'm gonna get some water.
current chair of this meeting, I'm going to take this moment to read from the Constitution and the bylaws. I'm reading from Article 12, Parliamentary Authority. Parliamentary authority of the SGA shall be in this Constitution, its bylaws, the current edition of Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised, and executive discretion in that order. And then also from Bylaw 2. Title 1, letter F, what I previously stated, authors of a resolution or amendment shall only speak to the proposed resolution or amendment. While it might have been said at the retreat, it is not in the Executive Secretary's approved minutes, which means it officially did not happen and officially cannot influence SGA. So the author is the only one who's limited to speaking into section of the date. Are there any queries? We are currently still in debate. We are currently still in the 5 minutes of cool. Are there any speakers wishing to speak for the proposal? Treasurer Stroker.
So I see there was some confusion about what's going on and exactly how IOC works. First off, I'd like to start by stating that there is the IOC Oversight Committee, which is participated on by the Vice President of the Executive Cabinet, as well as myself, in addition to Chris O'Connor, Philip, and another faculty member. I guess Dean Hale has the right to change Philip to another faculty member if she so chooses. Now, I'd like to start by just crediting these guys. Chris O'Connor, Philip, and a lot of the faculty are just really, they appreciate good ideas. If we have any points that we want to make about IOC, they're willing to work with us. But let's talk about IOC history and why we're here for a second. I look at a Congress that is half college Republicans, or I guess I can't actually talk that, filled with leaders of the students who are participating in many clubs and rightfully come from different classes, who have different biases, who have different friends. So the reason we got to where we are with the IOC committee is we realized that if we're in charge of the students' funds, we want to give it in an objective way. We want to make sure that it's given fairly, without bias of us, that no student is just playing favorites or lobbying Congress. So we created the IOC as a spawn of SGA. And Philip, the graduate assistant, does a lot of the work because he is objective. That's why we have that going on. So let's talk about the tier system. And I know a lot of people don't like that. I only got like 3 minutes, so I'm going to probably speed through and I'll answer queries. It objectively gauges activity. I know it's a pain. I know it seems like something that is just out of this world to say that, oh, I have to fill out an activity form to prove to the Campbell body or student body that I am doing my work and that they're not just giving me these funds just so I can pocket it. I know you don't technically pocket it, but you guys can have pizza with your funds, and I'm not saying you guys, but students can have pizza with those funds and stuff like that. It's just a way to make sure that they're doing what they say they're doing. That's why we set up the tier system, to establish proper incentives. And we have a say in who gets money and how. I worked with Philip closely to make sure that it was distributed in a fair way. It maintained the tier system. All students are benefiting from where they were previous year, so they're going to have no complaints other than the fact that SGA might not give them their money so that they can't start investing in club events and start doing what they want to do. When instead we want to strong arm the administration, student life, into doing what we say when they could, one, cut our budget completely, and I can say that as the executive treasurer, that's what will happen. Or two, work with them. I mean, it's so wrong to go up to someone and say, hey, we could work with you guys, but instead, we're just going to hold your funding, students are going to get mad at everyone, and it's just going to be chaos when we can rework the system. Now, they're better off than they have been in the past. Again, they're all getting increases. No one should be complaining from last year unless they did not feel the requirements of the tier system, which is to make sure that it's objective.
Time is done.
I yield to queries. I didn't think there'd be any. I yield my time. Yeah.
Can you expand more on, you said that the administration could cut our funds and you think they will. Can you expand more on why you think that and kind of give us something concrete?
Absolutely. Once upon a time, there was SGA members who played favorites, who a long time down the road, maybe half the organization was one club or something, and they started giving funds arbitrarily. So the administration, had to not step in, but we worked with the administration to solve that problem. Now, what's going to happen at the administration when I propose the next semester budget to Bazemore saying that there is no funds for IFC? He's not going to see it warranted. He's going to say, so you guys are going to arbitrarily give funds again like you have in the past. And I can't say that for certain, but as a person who's in charge of the budget, I can make pretty good prediction. He's going to say, oh, you guys are taking $5,000 just to be used generally, and I don't know where it would go unless we want to go to a general fund, which I've already expressed my problems with that. But instead, he'll see that we're going back to how we were. And when we actually came to the administration and worked out a system that gives in a fair, objective manner, that's why our budget would probably be cut. Oh, and just building on that, in the past, student life it hasn't been going through Congress. I've been working closely with looking at the Constitution, IFC, to make sure that things go according to plan. So traditionally, it's kind of like a ceremonial thing. So I hope that answers your question.
Representative Zoll.
Would the speaker not agree that a student body government led by the students for the students is not a better incentive than to fill out paperwork for money?
I would say no, and here's why. Paperwork, you're looking at it the wrong way, I believe, Representative Zoll. Paperwork is to establish that you are doing your work. Not your work, but that you're actually an active club. It's a way that not one Congress member got along with his friends and said, hey, this club's doing well, let's give them more money, but an actual physical paper trail to show that a club is active so that we're not going in front of Congress and saying, I think you guys should give this money to these people for these reasons. We're saying, look at these facts. Look at what they've done. Look at the events they've committed in or participated in. Look at how they participated in Relay for Life. Look at what they've done. And that's how we should give funds, not just based on personal biases and stuff like that, which no matter what you do, it arbitrarily or not arbitrarily seeps in.
Follow up? I understand what you're saying, and that's a good point, but as a club president, are you aware of the actual procedures and the actual documentation that you have to submit and the deadlines that you have to submit those by, and the struggle that is as a president to meet those deadlines in the appropriate time so that you don't cause your whole entire club to have damage because of the inadequacy, whatever word I'm trying to find, of the president?
Yes, I can actually answer that question. I am actually president of mock trial, or captain. We don't actually use president. I actually have no problem. I filled out my dates in advance. Whenever I'm spending money, I make sure that the appropriate channels are done well in advance so it's not looks like it's spending hastily. I would probably question clubs that have to do it on the go instead of planning out their expenditures when we're giving them a large amount of money.
Would the speaker agree that since this is the students' money and that it should be spent for the students, by the students, however they deem it should be allocated, that teachers or faculty members who have voting rights, that have no money in the game, no skin in the game, may not always make the best decisions for the students, how the students actually think it should be spent?
Well, how I would answer that question is, and that's a very good point, it's coming down to the, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's coming down to the faculty members who sit on the oversight committee. The reason that exists, and the reason I'm going to say that I'm okay with it, is one, that they have no problem with it. They have no gain in it. They're objective. They're not going to say, oh, well, I don't like you guys, we're going to kick you out, or I like you guys, we're going to give you money. So they're objective. There's a way, instead of just Vice President Outlaw and myself sitting on the committee, or a group of us sitting on the committee, we have objective checks and balances that make sure that we're not spending arbitrary amount, or I keep on using the word arbitrary, large amounts for no reason. They're there to catch if it's a really bad idea, if the university, which provides our funds through the students, thinks that it'd be a terrible idea to give one club an excess amount of money. They're there to express their concerns, and I think that's perfectly viable.
I have a follow-up. I think that's wonderful what you're saying, but these professors, even though they are objective because they don't have any money tied up, they also don't feel any repercussions for any mistakes that they may make while voting. And you can't hold, like, none of us can hold them accountable for their mistakes. If we had students, a full student committee running this, the students that could be voted on and off, they could be held accountable. These teachers cannot.
That's out of order, it's not a question.
Actually, I felt a question in there.
Yeah. I was asking, would you agree? Basically.
The answer is, and again, I'm a bit scatterbrained. It's been a long meeting. We had a 30-minute debate against. I would say no, because I think that if we really wanted to express or expand maybe the IOC committee, or maybe combine or work with them, we can do something like that for next semester instead of holding the funds. But for the time being, I think that they're just a great objective check and balance. Correct me if I'm wrong. You're saying they have no stake in it, but at the same time, is it better for students who do have stakes in it to make that decision?
Can I clarify what I was trying to say by stake? If you're a student who, say you're not part of a club, but you're on this committee of voting, you have to be voted on or voted off. Your stake would be being on that board and having that control. And your tuition, correct me if I'm wrong, your tuition helps fund part of the IOC's funding. Am I correct in that?
I think you're going to have to repeat the first part.
What I'm saying is, instead of having faculty members, and you had all students who were elected to this board, they're accountable to the students for wherever their discretion is with the funding of this committee. Because our tuition helps fund the IOC. So that's all I'm trying to say is these students who are unbiased, not part of any club.
All right, I can answer that pretty well. You're talking about the incentive system that students would have to make sure that their money is spent wisely as compared to faculty members. The problem with that is the incentives of the body, which is by its very nature, not biased, but there to help their specific class. Let's say there was a class that was specifically targeted towards, or a club that was specifically targeted towards freshmen. They may have the incentive to get more money for them, for their class, instead of helping. Hold on, I understand what you're saying. As an economist, I understand incentives very well. But I think the personal bias is what we're. Here's the real comparison. It comes down to, do we want, I want to use this marker so bad. It comes down to, do we want it to be in a completely objective way, or do we want it to be in a possible objective way? That's what it comes down to.
Speak to questions. Coordinator Bolthouse.
Is the speaker aware that IOC is made up of either the presidents or a representative from each club? So therefore, it would be much less biased than, say, us deciding, because we clearly, there's no way that we have every club represented in this body.
I am so absolutely aware.
Representative Whitlaw.
Is the speaker aware that the nature of our position in student government is subjective inherently, that we are to represent the students themselves? It is their money that they've spent in that little student fee on our bill. And so objective is not necessarily what we want, like a third party outside voting on their money.
And what you're getting at goes down back to the fact that, yes, it's inherently subjective. And there's no way that every club or every club member can represent themselves through all SGA members all the time. So what we decided to do as SGA, this is a decision of the past administration, we decided to move into a way that we can make sure that all clubs, because you got to realize that it's not just IOC. IOC disperses in a completely objective way, But we also left ourselves wiggle room with the IOC committee, or IOC oversight committee, which says we can meet with students. If the objective way that we came up with gets it wrong, we are able to meet their needs. Say that a club is $50 short or in a tight crunch, we're able to work with them. So we're not cutting ourselves out completely. We're making sure it's objective, but we're also have a little, not grease on the wheels, but to make sure that things run smoothly.
You mentioned that they can't come to us. Why? What is the difference between them coming to us, who represent them and have been
and
elected,
then we relay their
versus
concerns.
coming to the
But
objective?
due to the
there's a
nature of
student forum
congressional
every
members who are
meeting
on
too in the
clubs,
past.
it's
Why
not
couldn't
that
they
way.
come to
It's
us
more
any
of
different
not
than-
students necessarily coming to
Well,
them, but the
here's-
possibility of an SJ member, by the virtue of being a club member as well, is not necessarily always looking out for all the clubs, but maybe necessarily their club. And if you had to clarify, I think I might have missed part of that.
Point of information, I believe that's what the abstainee vote is for, in case a member happened to be on.
It is very true that the abstention should be used if there's a conflicting interest. And that'd be amazing if that's used. There's impeachment grounds, and I don't doubt that it would be used. But the question is, how do we answer all of these students? Not one club that happened to talk to the right SGA member who got it across, but talk to all the students and get it to them in a fair and objective manner. And as well, if that is really a concern, they can come to us and we can make that happen. We're not cutting that very virtue of what you just said. We're not cutting that out of the system. It's still there. But we also have a way of doing it fairly as well for just keeping tabs on it.
We're limited to parliamentary questions.
Parliamentary.
All right, I'm limited to 2 questions. Am I correct in that?
The limited question is up to the discretion of the chair. Or New Beaver.
Would you agree that economically speaking, we can never reach 100% objectivity because everyone is self-interested? Therefore, faculty would still be self-interested as well as students.
In theory, you're talking about corrupt faculty members here.
I did not say corrupt.
Yes,
Everyone has their own
bias.
biases.
Okay.
Therefore, a faculty member who
Please
may
keep
be...
to questions.
What?
Please keep to questions.
Would you agree that a faculty member who is a Republican would have in the back of their mind that they would want to give more money to college Republicans as the same thing that a student would do, except that a student would have to be voted on and all?
I think you're absolutely right, and that's why we came up with a way with administration hands-off. We set up the policies, we set up the distribution for IOC. That's absolutely why we had that, so that's completely hands-off, so that there is no bias, and we can do it in a fair way.
Vice President Allen, you had a question?
Yes, would the speaker agree that it would be most beneficial to clubs to give them the funding now and work cohesively as a body throughout the rest of the semester, where we're not working under time constraints, to reform ISC in a way that would benefit the students?
I'd like to actually address that very clearly. Here's what we're dealing with. We have 2 options right now as SGA. We can...
Please keep to answering the
I am
question.
answering the question. Sorry. We can either give the funds now and allow the process to get started so that clubs can get more than they have in years past, or we can say no. And I think that it is personally better to go ahead and give them more funds than they've had in the past, and then work with the administration instead of strong-arming them when they're, which is just completely rude. We can, instead of strong-arming or arming them, we can work for next semester. So.
So the speaker would agree that it would be more efficient and more practical to go ahead and give the money now and work cohesively as a body outside of Congress to fix this for next semester.
Absolutely. I think that it is 100% in our best interest to give students the money that they've been going to Philip Cope, Chris O'Connor, and other members of the Student Life Administration and saying, hey, we need our money now. I think it's absolutely best that we actually answer their concerns as student government and then work with them.
and the administration over the next semester to get things changed how we want it to be changed.
Representative Snyder.
Yes, if we follow the logic of Treasurer Strobo, then would the speaker not agree that because you are a president of a club, you should not be a chair of an IOC committee, and therefore you are in misadministration because you have direct say of where the money goes?
Very good observation. Information, he's not the chair, the vice president would be the chair, being me.
Very good observation. What that boils down to is if mock trial, which is who I'm captain of, came up to a committee and said, it would be if one of my members on mock trial came up and said, hey, we need $1,000 more, which just for clarification, we're good. Then I would recuse myself. That's the purpose of abstention.
Is the speaker aware that under Constitution, Section 7, which explains the select standing congressional committees, letter B, number 2, letter D, letter II, it states, in the event that a member of the committee is a member or advisor of the club in question, then they shall refrain from voting for that club's budget or supplementary budget.
Is there no more?
That's a yes or no.
There's...
Yeah, question.
Oh. I thought you said, okay, I thought you were clarifying him. Yes, I am aware of that. That's why I explained that I would recuse myself. Wow, that must have looked weird.
Vice President
Well. Would the speaker agree that we could face repercussions being our entire budget taken away if we try to go against the administration?
No, that is not necessarily true. We would lose, there's a very good chance that if we did not give clubs their fund, and we did not really, if we distributed it in the way we have in the past, that there's a likely chance, and I say this as the executive treasurer, that our budget would be cut and we'd have less money overall to even give the students, regardless of whether or not it's in an objective manner. Probably in the form of $5,000.
I motion to end debate.
Second.
All those opposed?
Oh. Oh, yeah.
The motion is denied because there were already hands asking questions beforehand. Representative Ellis.
Is IOC funded by SGA?
Yes, it is.
Follow-up question. If IOC is funded by SGA, why did we not receive an IOC handbook?
That's a very good question. The IOC handbook is made readily available through the website. Philip Pope has them readily available. If there was issues, I would advise that people with questions regarding how IOC is carried out, go to him.
Would it be optional to maybe consider amending the resolution to maybe making it half or so? That way we can accommodate everyone's needs. That way Gabe can get his idea of keeping some of the bargaining chip. And then as well as everyone else, the club will still get money from our budget.
You say, would it be possible to amend it? I'm going to say no for one reason. The incentive effect that either, and I'm not saying, again, I'm speaking for, of course, but pretty much both sides would be just destroyed if we split it in half. We'd have weaker incentives for the administration to do what we want and clubs to support us, and they'd know that they can wait us out. So economically speaking, I'd say that, I would say that's a pass.
I make a motion to end debate.
Second.
I didn't get.
All those in favor?
Aye.
No.
I motion for a third-party speaker to speak.
Second.
Second.
In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Is there a motion on the floor?
I make a motion for a third-party person to speak. Second.
All those opposed?
Objection. Question of parliamentary equality. There we go. Isn't it the benefit of being an elected member that we're the only ones allowed to speak during times of debate? Yeah, isn't that what? Because if anybody can go ahead and speak.
Objection, that's opinion, not fact.
Bylaw 2, Title I says all members of Congress and advisors shall have full speaking privileges at all congressional meetings. Is the motion for a advisor to Congress?
Yes.
Are there any objections? Any in favor?
Aye.
In the chair, the ayes have it.
You never voted no.
Yes, he said.
Is there all those opposed?
You, oh, okay. You said, is there any objection?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Philip Pope. I am the GA for SGA and IOC. If I haven't met you, I apologize. I do know some of you very well. It's been a pleasure working with you so far this year. Looking forward to working with you guys throughout the year to get a lot of things accomplished, both with IOC and with SGA. Tonight, what you have in front of you, I think, is a very important resolution that Andrew and his team have worked very hard and very diligently to prepare for you guys. It involves clubs, the people that you were elected to represent, the students. What I've heard tonight is we, our power, and that SGA doesn't do anything. I don't agree with that. I think you guys do a lot, and I think you're selling yourself short if you say that you guys don't do anything if you don't fund clubs. Basically, you guys are the voice of the students, and the students want their clubs to be funded. SGA gives IOC money to fund these clubs. You guys have made up a budget, and Dr. Bazemore and Chris O'Connor have approved it. And you guys even approved it last week. Really what this is a formality, whether or not you're going to give us the funds or not, to give to the clubs who need the money so that they can do their events. It's not a question of how IOC is going to be run or if you guys can run IOC. That's not what's up for grabs tonight. What's up for grabs tonight is whether or not you're going to give us the money we need to give your students, the people of Campbell University, the money that they need for their clubs. $5,000. That's what's on the docket. Now, we've been talking about an IOC slush fund. That's not up here. So if you guys reject this resolution, they will have no funding for right now, which means that there's no SGA match if they fundraise on their own. That's their own fundraising. I mean, if you're in the tier system and you're a lower tier, you require fundraising on your own. You use fundraising on your own, and it's great. It's an incentive for you to get money on your own, to basically sell things on campus, and SGA matches that. We can't match that because you guys haven't voted for that. You guys, if you reject this, will not vote to give them anything. And you guys have made a promise to these students that you would increase their club budgets. If you don't pass this, you're basically reneging on the budget that you submitted to Dr. Bazemore, to Chris, to myself, and really to the students of Campbell University. You are reneging on your promise, many of the promises that you probably ran for, to give them more money because they are students here. You are hijacking their money. I'm not going to get up here and try to convince you. You guys are adults now, responsible adults. You guys know why you were elected. And I think that ultimately you guys are going to make whatever decision you're going to make. And, you know, I hope that you guys will fund the IOC this way. Because, you know, as the GA for IOC, we really want to work with SGA this year. I've been talking to Peter about ways that IOC and SGA can work together to do good things for the students. So we are not opposed to one another. We are not standing diametrically on different poles. But the question really is not about, can SGA take over IOC? That's not what's up for grabs tonight. Now, if that's something that you guys want to work on in the future, by all means. But what's up for grabs tonight is the budget. And you guys have already said yes. So that's what I would like for you guys to really resonate within yourself tonight. You've already said yes last week to giving us this money. If you don't want to give clubs the money, then it's on you. It's not on IOC.
Is there a motion on the floor?
Motion to approve resolution 003-13.
Second.
Because it was debated, it needs to be a
call vote. Ms. Avery. Ms. Bolthouse.
Yes.
Ms. Bray.
Yes.
Ms. Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Ms. Bird.
Yes.
Ms. Capps.
Yes.
Ms. Cox. Mr. Deaver.
Yes.
Ms. Ellis.
No.
Mr. Ashadi.
Yes.
Ms. Gandhi.
Yes.
Mr. Hudson.
Yes.
Ms. Isis. Ms.
Yes.
Isis. Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Kelly.
Yes.
Ms. Lurk.
Yes.
Ms. Ugaha.
Yes.
Mr. Owen.
Yes.
Mr. Powell.
Yes.
Ms. Santos.
Yes.
Mr. Sheridan.
Yes.
Ms. Sloan.
Yes.
Mr. Snyder.
No.
Mr. Stewart.
Yes.
Mr. Sherba.
Yep.
Yes. Ms. Hadline.
Yes.
Ms. Tarr.
Yes.
Ms. Torreira.
Yes.
No.
Mr. Whitlock.
No.
Mr. Wilder.
Yes.
Ms. Wilson.
Yes.
Ms. Sopp.
No.
The ayes have it. Resolution passes. This motion has now been approved. The chairmanship of this meeting then goes back to Vice President Ella. We'll now move into student forum. Are there any students wishing to speak? Mr. Bushhouse, you're actually deep to the point this time.
Hey, my name is Hunter Tadlock. I just want to say I come to a lot of SGA meetings, and tonight was a little ridiculous. You guys are elected by the students to represent the student body, and tonight I did not get that at all. I got a lot of, this is about our power, what we're doing. It's not about you guys, no offense. It's about the students. So just keep that in mind.
Thank you, Ms. Tadlock. Mr. Bushhouse?
Well, I hadn't originally planned on coming up here, but this happened. I want to echo what she said. I want to echo what Phil said. I mean, they said it perfectly fine. I don't know how else to say it. If you guys want to change something, pick a time to change something. Plan this out. If you want to change the funding so that you don't want to do IOC and you guys want to be responsible for it, then plan something. Don't come into the meeting when it's on here and you guys have already passed the budget saying you're going to give it, and then be like, all right, this is the time. This is the time we need to act right now. Act 2-3 weeks before. Act before the budget. Okay? I mean, this is where I haven't seen a lot of people taking personal responsibility and accountability. Okay? Someone had a question about the IOC handbook, how you guys didn't have it. And Phil pointed out that it's online. Nothing in life is just going to be handed to you. There's nothing wrong with going out and trying to seize an opportunity. Okay? Another side note, I have talked to some of you guys about, I know I came down here and was harsh to you last meeting, and the reason for that is I come to these meetings all the time, regardless of how you guys have a meeting, I'm still going to be here. Okay? But there was a giant student showing, giant comparatively to what happens, and it's pretty good right now, student showing, and you guys did something today that you also did in that meeting, and you argued amongst each other over yourselves. That one was arguing over facts that I've already determined, so I'm not going to go back over that.
This one was about trying to give yourself more power. Everyone seemed to be confused with what a conflict of interest is. I don't understand why that's such a confusing topic. We reiterated what an abstention is. Conflict of interest is so that you cannot use your position of power to help yourself. I mean, that's, again, these are things I expected you guys to know. If you don't, conflict of interest, you're not supposed to do that. That is one of the big factors that I heard presented for why SGA should not run it. I understand it works for bigger schools, but Campbell is not a big school. Campbell does not have, okay, you guys are all very involved. That's why you're here, okay? Chances are very high that you're involved in other organizations on campus, okay? If you go to other schools, the chances of there being other people who are not involved in certain affairs and can vote on certain clubs is much higher because there's more people. That's not the situation for Campbell. So I'm sorry we can't be like everybody else, but that's just how Campbell is, okay? Now, back to my original statement. You guys sat here arguing over power and what you guys wanted, okay? From a public relations standpoint, I know advancement has had to give up because it's kind of hard to stand here and say, no, guys, SGA still cares about you. We're not sitting here plotting in the, not the dark, in the light of finding ways to advance our power, okay? So, from the last 2 meetings, I've seen an administration that has tried to change things from the past. We got secret ballots finally, and we have new reforms, but you guys are fighting over, we want more power, we want to do things that are going to hurt the students, okay? So that's terrible from a public relations standpoint, and that's important for you because your whole job is public relations. You need to make me as a student feel like you should be here. I should want you here. I should vote for you because you're helping me out. Okay? So, I would say think back on what has happened in these last 2 meetings and maybe consider, how you're treating the students, even the few that show up. And also plan things out. Okay? If you want to make a big sweeping grand change, don't come into the meeting where it's already been passed in the budget and this is simply a formality. Don't come in here and be like, this is the time, we have to vote no on this, we have to change everything. This is what planning is for, okay? Plan it out in advance, okay? I mean, I don't understand why everything this year has become, we need to do this right now. Right now. No, we didn't think about it before, we just wanted to come to this meeting and decide, no, this is it. Okay? So those are my comments for you tonight. I hope you all have a great night.
Are there any other students wishing to speak? Mr. Hall?
As a person who represents 3 different clubs and in charge of their monies, I am appreciative that we finally get money, even though it's been 6 weeks into the school year. And I just want to point out that it's only 0.0089% of revenue per semester that you guys are debating over. And I personally kind of find it ridiculous that it takes this long for government to react to student needs, which is we need club funds. Like, if we could get it faster, that means we could do a more strategic marketing at street fairs and things like that. I know for individually, I needed money for a club, so I had to personally use my debit card, and now I'm having to do reimbursement later on. So I'm just saying, I know you guys are wanting to get things done in an appropriate way, but there's other ways you can do it at a later time versus try and make the students suffer now. I yield one time.
Are there any more students wishing to speak? Seeing none, we will now move into congressional forum. Are there any members of Congress wishing to speak? Representative Snyder.
I know, I hear all the huffs. Everybody's mad at me. I get it. And because there was everybody that came down was talking about me and the people that voted for it, I figured I should give a response. The way I see it, I've talked to clubs. They're frustrated about IOC. And you know why? For the same reason why Miss Ellis didn't know the IOC handbook was online. There's no communication. That's what we're for. That's what I was arguing for. We are the open line of communication. I've tried to do things with clubs. I've offered my assistance in saying that an SGA member should be involved with clubs to see what they need. No, that's a misadministration. We can't do that. Even though the idea is to open the line of communication between clubs. The fact that an SGA member doesn't know Do you think that's her fault that she doesn't know? Do we blame a child when he drops his bottle? They don't know any better. She hasn't been taught. It's not her fault that she doesn't know. The fact that Mr. IOC, I'm sorry I don't know your name, the new GA, came down here shows what this was going to do. This was going to shake things up. He listened tonight. I don't think he could disagree with that. He heard what we were doing. Ultimately, I was being a good representative and listening to the students. They don't like IOC. My girlfriend is a class president, and she doesn't like, a club president, and she doesn't like IOC. That's how I know. There's been plenty more people like her. I was involved with the club. I know what a pain IOC is. And I also know how hard it is to communicate with IOC and to get things done. And you can't do it without something. And we don't have anything. This isn't about our power. I don't know where that came from. I know I said our power because when you have powers, they're vested in us from the students. And the students are in clubs around here. And we should be the ones giving them the money. And the whole abstention thing, that doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry. It doesn't make sense in real government. It doesn't make sense here. If you vote on a bill in Congress and it helps out and it gives money from your district, are they supposed to abstain whenever you give money to your district? Isn't that benefiting the economy where you're from? It doesn't make any sense, guys. No money. Now, if they vote and the money is spent on their business and it helps out their business, then yeah, you should abstain. Because that's money that's going to go into your personal pocket. Club money is not going to go into anybody's personal pocket. It's obviously not a popular opinion, I can tell by everybody's face, but what I saw was an administrator bully everybody into voting their way. And that's exactly what...
If it's derogatory, please don't do that anymore.
It's not derogatory, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it derogatory. Thank you for pointing that out. That's what I saw tonight, was him put himself on us and make us push us to do something we might not want to do. Because when I was talking before, I saw a lot of nods, I saw a lot of yeses, and then all of a sudden he comes up and that's it. So, I'm sorry to take up y'all's time. I just figured I would address some of that stuff that was talked about in the forum. And sorry to take up y'all's time.
Representative Zopp.
Good evening. I just want to start out by saying that those of you that have come up here and fuss at us, us meaning those people who did not agree with this resolution, for not addressing this earlier, you're right. We should have addressed this earlier. This came up and we just passed this in a congressional forum. We were not sent this resolution beforehand. Like we are supposed to be sent this resolution beforehand. But you are right, it was in the budget, and we did pass the budget. Allocation was in the budget. As a senior representative, I've been here for 3 years. I've been in SGA, and we have tried other means in changing the way IOC works. Like Representative Snyder mentioned earlier, he created the IOC committee, and that took a lot of work and a lot of meetings and a lot of time, which is what we're for. That's our job. We're supposed to do that. But I say that to make the point of it is not easy for us to make this change. And when changes aren't easy and they're not being recognized by the administration, they're not taking student government seriously when we say that we want control over club funding. And we don't want control over club funding for our benefit. We don't want control over club funding for our benefit. That is not what we want. We do not want that power. We don't want it. We want control over club funding so that when clubs come to us as their representatives, we can do something and we can make a difference for them. Because right now, we don't have that power. All we can do is say, advise them in what they can do. And tell them what they should do, which is to go to the IOC committee. We can tell them that they can do that, and that's it. And that's the extent of our power. Okay, I'm done ranting. Now I'm going to rant at you. We see this as a problem, and we've passed it, so now clubs are going to get their funding, which I'm so happy about. I did not want clubs to not get their funding. But now I challenge all of you to stand with me and make this change for the clubs that want this change. If you don't agree and you don't think that clubs want this change, if you think that clubs like IOC, then don't join me. But if you do, and if you are part of a club and you have felt the constraints that IOC puts on clubs and getting funding, if you need funding for a club, then please help me. I'm going to go schedule a meeting tomorrow with Dr. Hammond and speak with him about this problem. I don't know when that meeting will be. I'm going to go and schedule it with him. I'm sure he's a very busy man. But I'm done trying to play small ball. And that's what we were trying to do here and not passing that. We were not trying to keep the money from students. We were trying to make a stand in a way that will actually work. Because so far, the ways that we've tried aren't working. So please, talk to me after. Let's do something about it. Let's change it. There are enough of us in here that are representing a large portion of students out there that don't like the way things are. And Philip, I personally apologize to you for how attacking this may have seemed. I know that you're new here, and we want to work with you as much as possible. And I am a psychology club president, and we got the ball running late. And I'm really struggling trying to understand the IOC process, and I know that he will be more than willing to work with us. He's not the one that we have a problem with. We have a problem with the IOC as a whole, not with Philip. I'm sure that he will do a wonderful job helping us in whatever way he can. Anyways, so challenge, please work with me and make this change. Thank you.
Any other members of Congress who can speak? Representative Strobo.
Just very briefly, I've also heard the complaints about IOC. They're definitely out there. In fact, one of the problems that I actually worked on with Philip is to make sure that it's distributed more fairly, that everyone's benefiting from the changes that we're making this semester. And I've also talked about maybe making changes to the tier system. I'm not sure if that'll happen or how that'll happen, but I'm going to work with him on making that happen. I wasn't trying to step on any toes tonight. I'll be honest, I was just a little bit frustrated because of the long debate, and I had so many points to make and only so little time. So I didn't mean to step on any toes. The only thing that I was trying to get across is that SGA before us made the decision to create the IOC in order to do it in an objective manner. And I know there's problems with it, but let's work to fix the problems. You wouldn't, all because a car breaks down, you don't just throw out the car. You see if you can fix the car instead of walking to work. We came to that conclusion for a reason. I just thank you guys for taking the stand to say, hey, let's not deny students their funding, but let's also change things instead of just saying let's deny students their funding and then strong-arm the administration that's willing to work with us. So I appreciate you all, or appreciate everyone's time tonight. I know it's really late, and I'm on board for leaving sooner, so thank you for your time.
Sharon Tadlock.
I just like to apologize for any frustration that it's hard authoring something and not being able to talk for it. That's a really hard thing to do. So excuse me if I was a little too frustrated. I'm so happy that there are people so passionate about this. That's what I want. That's what I'm so glad that we have elected members who are very passionate about these things. If you're passionate about it, great. Do what you can. Follow Audrey. Do what you want to do. That's so wonderful, and that's so heartwarming to know that we are this dedicated to the students. As far as I'm concerned, I understand the struggle with IOC. I was the club president 2 years ago as a sophomore, and it was awful. It was so hard to get anything passed through. But you know what? I did it. It was a lot of time, it was a lot of effort, it was a lot of delegating, but I did it. And my club is now a larger club because of that. And, you know, I think it's hard. It's just a hard job. And you're elected by your other members to take on that job. So do it. Do it however you have to do it. If you have to get help, if you have to go sit in Philip's office every day, I know, Philip, that's probably gonna suck, but every day to say, hey, Philip, you know what? This is not working. Tell him. Voice your concerns. IOC is willing to work with us. That's what we were just told. They are willing to work with us. With us. I understand administration can be annoying. It can be. It can always be annoying. In any situation, it can be annoying. But they're always there for us. They're always there for us. I mean, Representative Audrey just said that she was going to get up with Dr. Hammond, or Dean Hammond, to talk to him. Because guess what? He'll listen to her. He'll work with her. He'll work with her to help fix things. That's what the IOC is there for. That's what Philip's there for. He wants to help us. So we have these problems. I understand some of you say we've tried to fix this before. Well, let's try again. Let's try until we can't try anymore. Thank you.
Any other members of Congress wishing to speak? Representative Ellis.
Hi guys. As you guys have noticed, the main problem doesn't actually seem to be the amount of clarity going into voting. It's the lack of clarity given beforehand. I have been in SGA for a year, and I just am finding out what IOC actually does. I voted on a budget before. This is the second time I voted on a budget and had no idea what IOC actually does, and the lack of information is ridiculous. The fact that we don't receive an IOC handbook, I know it's available online as of today, but we don't receive that. We receive a constitution on the first day of the retreat. IOC is funded by us. The fact that we don't receive a handbook is a problem. So much money goes into IOC. This is the most money that IOC has received this year. It's $5,000 per semester, and we did not actually know how much control IOC has of it. And the control issue is not that SGA is not in control of it. It's the fact that we don't know the money we're spending, who it's going to, what clubs are receiving it, how much of it they're receiving it. The tier method is wonderful. How active a club is should determine how much money they receive, but we never see that. And so the fact that we don't get that type of clarity before we vote on a resolution that was in committee of the whole, so we've never seen this resolution until today. So we were unaware that we were voting on this today. We had no idea. That's not our fault. I understand that the clubs need money immediately. I am currently in leadership for a club and had no idea why we weren't receiving the money, but the only reason I know is because I'm in SGA. So that's not fair to the clubs to hold their money, but we have no power over how much money is spent except for what we are able to do in the budget and what we're voting on. The budget was fantastic. I love to see that the clubs have more money than they've ever had before, but the fact that IOC is in control of it is not really the problem. It's the fact that we aren't able to communicate with IOC. That clearly seems to be the problem from the years before, and I can't judge the new people coming in that are in control of IOC because we don't know them. We know what IOC has done in the past, and that's all we can judge it off of, based off of what we already have. So just build communication with IOC. Clearly the budget was passed, so it's not a problem, and today's resolution was passed. That's great that the clubs are receiving money, but try to open the line of communication with all of these places that are receiving money from the students. This is where our tuition is spent. Thousands of dollars. We receive $30,000 for the budget, and how it's distributed is determined by us. We are in control of this large sum of money, and the fact that the clarity is not there is a problem. The fact that I didn't know what IOC was until this year at the retreat, and it still was not clear enough for us to properly vote on a resolution is ridiculous. So let's try to attempt to be more clear, actually give out the handbooks to the people who are determining how much money they're receiving would be awesome. That would be really nice. I would really appreciate that personally. And just attempt to give more clarity to the students, because I'm sure there are students who don't know what IOC are. The only people who would know would be the club presidents, because they're the ones receiving the money and filling out the paperwork that's required to receive money from IOC. So just a tend to be a little more clear to the student government, especially to the new members, the freshman class, who I'm sure half of their class was just recently appointed after retreat, so I'm sure they don't know what IOC is. So they definitely did not know that the handbook was online. Just wanted to make that clear.
Any other members of the Congress wishing to speak? Representative Snyder, do you want to speak?
I was going to ask a question, sorry.
Okay. Do you have a query?
today, so
Motion to adjourn. Denied. I asked the question. President Higgins to speak. Alrighty, everybody. I agree with Chairwoman Tadlock. Being passionate about something is great. Don't just give up on something. We're supposed to butt heads. It's how we get the best solution. However, we should not do things like real Congress because our government is $17 trillion in debt. Okay, let's do things our way, the most efficient way, and let's not just get rid of IOC. Let's work with IOC, and I appreciate your candor in trying to get everyone motivated. Last night, I know for a fact, when I swung by the SJ office, make sure you guys go do your hours, that Chairman Shad and Chairman Strobo were in there until 2 a.m. working on figuring out things with IOC. They took the initiative. They were working hard at it. So communication, as you hinted on, it's a big problem. Let's start communicating more with one another. And let's really just try and fix this in a way that doesn't hold students' money at hostage, which we've already done that. So I'm really happy that everyone did that. And the whole thing, I don't want any students to be confused with us wanting power. We shouldn't want power because we already have responsibility. We've already been given power. So let's go ahead and just focus on being responsible and getting up with one another if we have problems with things beforehand, talking with one another. I have another note written here. And I appreciate all the students coming up. A lot of them left. This meeting's taken a long time. A lot of them left, but I appreciate everyone coming up and speaking. You know, y'all are our employer. We're who y'all represent. So it's always refreshing. But don't take anything I say worth a grain of salt. I'm just a figurehead. All right, y'all have a great night. Any other members of Congress wishing to speak? President Navy? Commission to oh, you don't have to ask the commission. It's not a thing anymore.
Actually, the House rules have not been.
iPad. Sorry, iPad.
The House rules have not been suspended.
They are?
They've not been
Oh,
suspended.
they have not been. Okay, regardless of that. I know it's late, but at the beginning of the meeting, I did express an interest to talk about recycling, and I'm not going to let something big push that out of our field of vision because we are the student government. We have to deal with a lot of different aspects of campus. So, bear with me. Let me pull up the email that that was sent to me by the Campbell Times for our input on recycling, because as I stated in our last meeting, I've gotten 4 or 5 emails about from students wanting us to place recycling in Kivett, wanting us to place recycling bins in D-Ridge. And so I would love to open this up for discussion, but granted, I don't want discussion to be hindered by it being so late. So I am going to read you the questions that were sent to me by the Campbell Times. I'm going to email those to you after the meeting, and if you would like to weigh in on that, please do email me because... So the first question, how can Campbell students be more environmentally conscious? And these are good things to think about as representatives of the students who are tasked with evaluating the campus life, various aspects of campus life. What is the major factor in keeping Campbell from becoming more environmentally friendly? How can the facilities become more environmentally conscious? And is there anything SGA could do to help Campbell environmentally? I would argue that there is a lot we can do as representatives, as the voice of the students, who obviously are very passionate about recycling. There is definitely stuff that we can do in regards to recycling. And so, if you would like to weigh in on that, please do send me an email. I'm sending out these questions. Some housekeeping things. Chances are, y'all are killing me here. Chances are my camera has run out of memory during this meeting. It ran out of memory during the last meeting because memory cards are expensive and I have not had the chance to buy a enormous one yet because our meetings take a long time. So
we still have the auto recording. I had to replace my hard drive over the weekend, so that's why the new video from last week getting up takes time. Nameplates, that's something that I'm working on doing, getting nameplates made out of paper. I'm paying for them because it helps Congress. I'm not spending Congress's money. With your name in big print so that people speaking don't have to try to remember your name, because I have done that many times and forgotten someone's name and it's embarrassing. So that was about recycling. I have some more stuff that I would like to talk about in my closing address, but that's later. So yield my time. Yield my time to any queries regarding recycling. Yes. Oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead. Excellent. All right.
Any other members of Congress wishing to speak? All right, we'll now move into the closing remarks. President New.
We should do that again.
Yes, you don't have to ask this.
All right. Bear with me. All right. So, overall, was I pleased with tonight's meeting? Absolutely. We had lively discussion, albeit most of it was respectful. It was good and healthy. I would like to apologize to Congress for being a distraction. I was unclear on the House rules. I was under the impression that queries were in the 5-minute time period allotted for debate. I believe I was wrong with that. I apologize to Congress and to Mr. Snyder for interrupting your train of thought. If I lose the train of thought, it is gone, and I do not get it back. So I apologize for that. Ms. Tadlock, Mr. Bushhouse, Mr. Hall, and Mr. Phillips, as students, thank you for coming. Mr. Phillips, as a representative of the administration, thank you for coming. We really, truly appreciate y'all coming and expressing your opinions during our student forum. So, to start off, this is what I needed my iPad for. I wanted to read to you from Ecclesiastes that says, Ecclesiastes 3, verse 1, there's a time for everything and a season for everything under the heavens. And then it goes on into all sorts of situations where there's a time for one thing, a time for another. That's something that I would like you to keep considering when you bring things up. There's a time for everything. Our budget, we had allocated $5,000 to the IOC. This was a, what's the word I'm looking for? Not ceremonial, but it was just, it's a formality fulfilling our commitment. That would be like us not, it would be like, never mind. So we're fulfilling our commitment. I heard people discussing great things tonight. I was very pleased with the discussion tonight. People were talking about their passions in making SGA's views, SGA's actions line up with the students' priorities, the students' views. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong. That makes me really happy, because that's some things in my last 3 years of being in Congress, that's something that we have not done, is be passionate about lining up our views and our actions as the representatives with the views of the students. So thank you. Thank you, Congress, for being so passionate about that. I'm also very passionate about clubs. I campaigned on, one of the things I campaigned on was helping clubs. So, yes, I definitely do have qualms, differences of opinion with the IOC and the way it operates. And I definitely agree with Representative Ellis that there is a lack of information. I'm going to go through some of the lacks of information that I discovered about a week ago. I was a little bit upset when I discovered that the authority for SGA's vice president chairing the IOC, not the IOC committee, not the IOC oversight committee, chairing the IOC, the organization. I was a little bit upset when I found out that 3 years ago, on a whim, some irresponsible vice president gave that power away, just arbitrarily. Said, we don't want to do it. We want to focus on Christmas tree lights, or we want to focus on bike racks. We don't want to focus on clubs. Take that responsibility away from us. So that kind of upset me a little bit, as I'm sure it upsets many of you, that some person in our past gave away some of the responsibility that's been vested in us. I was a little upset to see recommendations by the student government in the handbook that I have no recollection of voting on. We've never recommended anything for IOC in this year's handbook. So I was a little bit taken aback by that. Granted, what it was suggesting was not all that bad. I just lack of communication. And I was a little bit upset when I had to hunt down, I had to dig deep. I had to dig deep to find out that Hunter is actually the chair of the entire organization. Why did I have to hunt that down? Why was that hard for me as the president of this organization to find? There's no excuse for that. Just because somebody gave it away 3 years ago, last year, year before, nobody did anything with it. Well, I guarantee you, I have taken notice of this. This is not something that I am losing wind over, losing steam. This is something that I'm very passionate about. And we communicated this in the Executive Council when we were determining the budget, determining whether to fund IOC or not, and we determined the 10 of us in the Executive Council were extremely passionate about clubs and reforming IOC to make it fit up with what the students wanted. But, like I just said, there's a time and a place for everything. And completely blasting the administration and blasting them and ripping this away and not giving the money to the students and saying, we have the money, we aren't letting it go until you meet all our demands, that's not the right way to do it. I heard the general vibe from tonight was, we can't do this diplomatically. There's absolutely no way we can do this diplomatically. This has got to be a hostile takeover. There's no way we can work this out without causing a disaster, not funding clubs. There's no way we can do it without that. And I will argue strongly against that. So I would like to communicate that with y'all. There are ways for us to do it. I am working with Chris. I am working with Philip. And I'm working with Hunter. Hunter is going to begin acting as the chair of the IOC. We just figured this out recently. So that's what we are in the process of doing. Believe you me, we are not delegating away the responsibility for IOC to someone who shouldn't have it. So, full circle. Thank you very, very much for your discussion tonight. I appreciate lively discussion as long as it's respectful. You've got to keep the respectful part. We've got to work on brushing up on parliamentary procedure. We've got to work on our professionalism when talking to others. But as a whole, thank you for your lively discussion tonight. That is about it. I would like to say one more thing, and then if you want to ask me questions. I would like to say one more thing in regards to Meet Your Representative Day. If you didn't notice, that was on the calendar for yesterday, the 25th. Obviously, we did not have that, and I apologize for not communicating that with you earlier. When the executive board was on their spring retreat, we set the calendar sort of based on things that had happened in the last year, under the assumption that we'd pass the budget on the retreat, we'd pass lots of resolutions, that we could pass a resolution to fund and organize this event. So obviously we did not vote on the budget on the retreat. We voted on it last week, and So that just unfortunately didn't take place. We are definitely going to do a Meet Your Representative Day. It's my dream to have it like elections, but without candidates. We have food, balloons, music, fun stuff that attracts the students. Hey, come talk to us. I'm your representative. What are your views? So that's my goal for that. I believe that's everything that I have for you tonight. Thank you all so much. It's very late. And thank you for your work with the students.
Second.
All those opposed? All those in favor?
Aye. Everybody, wait. Okay, Peter, we as a Congress recognize that your birthday was Monday. And